and managing artists must be quite. You must end up having to deal with a lot of their personal life as well, or that must affect the business side quite a lot. Or
No, like we make a very clear distinction of like their life is their life. We're
Right.
there to manage the business. We
Okay.
don't get involved in anything to do with their personal life. We don't want to know anything to do with their personal life. Our job is to manage the business. We manage whatever it is, limited company, the equivalent of like their entity.
Sure.
If something happens within their personal life that affects the business, then, we
Have no
obviously
choice, yeah.
obviously are mindful for whatever they need us to do in those moments, whether it's like we're having a baby, we need to stop touring, or we're doing this, or but we're not there to be manage your relationships away from what we're there to do. And I think that's where some people look, I'm not an oracle, but I think a manager's job is to focus on the business. You're not there to be an artist or a producer or a writer's best friend.
Or like a babysitter.
And they're not your friend. Ultimately, they're your client.
Sure.
And that's how it should be. And they'll see you as their manager, and it's like ultimately there might come a point where they don't see you as the right person for them. There's nothing wrong with that. And they might want to get a new person. And if it's like you've built this emotional attachment to them as a friend or this or that, then that becomes very hard.
It's like a breakup.
Yeah.
Emotional breakup.
Well, yeah, but it's like, of course I care about everyone I work with.
Yeah.
But then from like having gone through things in life, you have to have distance between like, okay, I don't call you to talk about my day or what, or this, or banter with you or whatever. I'm here to talk about the business. I'm here to like.
So have you learned that lesson the hard way? Like
100%.
You've got too involved in their lives.
But I've always wanted to have distance between. I think my whole life, but there were instances in the past where I was very close with acts we worked with, and then you realize, okay, you know what? There has to be a balance here. There has to be kind of like, I'm the manager.
Bit of a line.
Yeah,
somewhere.
like I'm not these guys' friends, or I'm not there for whatever it is. Ultimately they have to see me this way. I have to see them this way. I don't want to know about their personal life. I don't want to know. I want to know like on Monday morning what we're doing for the week. What's going on? This is this. I don't care what like. It's not my job to know what you get up on the weekend unless it's a show that we're involved in or something we're involved in.
I mean, obviously, like with music,
and not in a heartless way.
I know what you mean. Like you've got to somehow draw a line. I mean, for some reason, Entourage keeps popping into my head. The TV series. I keep thinking of like they have this thing of like we're a group. We're gonna go and make it all together, and we'll all be best buddies, and we'll all have success, and we'll all feed off each other.
And look, that's lovely. And I love that show more than anything. But I think at the same time, it's amazing if you can have that feeling with people you work with, but ultimately, there is. Look, in some situations, like I'm lucky with Jake, who we work with. I've been friends with him for a very long time, and we work together.
Like well before you started to work with him.
So I think, but those situations are rare, know. So it's like, but most situations, it's a situation of like, okay, you know what, we're here to do a job.
Yeah, I guess you're getting new people now as well, so you're just meeting them in a professional context.
But that's it. It's nice, obviously, in those scenarios with Jake or other people where it's like you've been friends with them and now you're working with them and you have the nice balance of knowing who they are as a person and blah, blah, blah. But with new people we're working with, we've been hired to do a job.
Sure.
They're not coming to us to be friends. They're coming to us to be killers. They want us to go and improve their contracts or find them a hit or whatever the dream is.
So are you still getting in the studio yourself much or no?
Sadly
now it's
not,
just
no.
like booking it in and sending them off.
But but what I'm here now to do is now to kind of think of the ideas of like, okay, well, who could work well in the studio? So it's like I'm vicariously in the studio, but I'm not. I sadly don't get to spend time in studios.
Would
like
you
I
like
used
to be more involved on the creative side?
I think eventually, maybe at some point later in life, but I do. I love the business. I live for the deals now. I love the business side of it. I love.
So let's just break it down. You get a brand new artist.
Mm-hmm.
What deals are you trying to make for them? Are you getting them a record deal?
So brand new artists, the deals that we could do, record deal, publishing deal if something's gone well. if something's going really well, neighboring rights deal.
What's that?
So neighboring rights is, you know, if you've played on a song. So again, it's
Okay.
like performance income.
Sure.
So then if something's gone really well in America, you could do BMI deal or ASCAP deal. They're two collection societies in America. So it's like if you've had a big hit in America, those things are open. So it's about, as a manager, knowing what deals are out there and what.
And are those the milestones? Like, don't worry, I'll take you, I'll get you those things.
It's
Record deal.
It's stepping stones. It's knowing when to do those things. Like, you know,
Is the record deal still the aim? I mean,
but
you
then
hear so many like sort of stories of artists speaking out like, oh, don't get a record deal, it's bad.
But
Type
then
thing. Is that true? Or stay independent?
I think my view is this. It's like, why do you need the record deal? You know, it's like you should be trying to own your masters. You need the record deal if it's like you're a certain type of artist. If you're trying to be a pop star, if you're trying to be Dua Lipa or Ed Sheeran, you need the record label. You need the level of investment. You need the level of international marketing, infrastructure, team, etc. If you're trying to be, I don't know,
and then like you're paying for all that ultimately anyway.
Exactly.
So all that stuff they pay for.
Yeah.
But then that's just a debt.
I think the facts are, if you're trying to be a pop star, Sabrina Carpenter, you need the record label. Right. No major pop star has come through independently. If you're trying to be the next Central C or the next Disclosure or, you know, Bicep or whatever, then 100%. There's so many avenues to you being independent and owning your music, and that type of both genres of music lends itself so easily to winning independently.
And then you retain creative control. You're not being pushed into stuff you don't want because it's more commercial.
And it's your label. You own the rights. You can sell those rights at any point. Yeah, but you know, the one thing that I think will always remain stable is if you're trying to be a pop star, you do need the record label. You know, the investment is
what do they
too big.
What does the record label do? They will record your stuff.
Record label, no. The record label's there to fund things. So it's like they'll say, okay, Di, you want to be Elton John. They'll say, okay, you need to go in the studio with this producer, and it's going to cost this much money to make your album. Here's a recording budget. It's going to cost $100,000 to make your album. Here's $100,000 to go and make this album. Try work with this producer, this writer. Okay, here's $100,000 advance, so you've got some money to live on. Now,
is that money not for the recording?
No, so there'll be a separate
producers.
There'll be a separate recording budget. So there'll be a recording budget to pay for producers, mix engineers, studios, blah blah blah. And then there'll be a budget for you, an advance that goes in your that's your money to do as you wish to keep you going. Then might, if you're, you know, kind of you want to do some shows or you're kind of an up and coming artist, it might make sense for you to have tour support, where they might say, okay, you know what, it's quite expensive for you to put on shows. So they might say, okay, well, here's $50,000 for you to be able to afford to hire some musicians and go and play some shows in other countries. So we can try and open this out. So they would be like, okay, here's some tour support. And then, you know, those are kind of the initial things. But then what else a major label will bring is a team, digital marketing, international marketing. You know, if a song of yours suddenly starts doing well in France, Germany, Australia, they've got offices in all these places and they can start spending domestically in those places. So that's the thing of like, if you're having a hit, a major can really start. If you're having a hit, they know
they can leverage off.
They can leverage it and make it a lot bigger. You know, because they have got, you know, they know how to really spend when something's happening.
And is that something which you want to go into when you say you want to go into?
So yeah,
the rights.
Yeah, but we're not chasing hits. We just want to be like signing cool things, you know. And you know, obviously the dream is you find something amazing, but ultimately it's just about finding tasteful things and building things. We've set up a label. So we've got a label called Hotel Records, which we're partners with Jake, that is funded by Atlantic and goes through ADA. It's like a singer-songwriter label. And the vibe is, just trying to sign cool, credible things that we think we're building a good catalogue of artists we can be proud of.
What genres are you in, or is it quite mixed?
Well, with Jake, it's like singer-songwriters or like bands. It's like kind of things that fit in his wheelhouse of like things he's produced, you know, like Ed-type artists, basically.
Right. And he ended up not producing Ed Sheeran's later albums after Ed went off and did his own thing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
people need to kind of
Grow
and
try
experiment.
different,
You know,
yeah.
they're still close. We speak to. We're fortunate to still be in his life, and you know, but ultimately there'll always be a special bond because
Sure.
ultimately, you know,
That was the first album. What was that one?
Well, that was called Plus, and then
Plus.
before that, they did 5 mixtapes together. You know,
Right.
and then Jake did Thinking Out Loud with Ed on the second album. So it's like ultimately they went on a journey together, and people then
Wanna
grow
try,
apart and
yeah.
want to try other things.
Sure,
There's nothing wrong with
makes
that.
sense.
That's life. You know.